So again, loving a black man can hurt by Isa, black Brazilian woman. So these are her words. 9 months ago, I had a kind of relationship with a guy, same age, same taste, a black man, because I refuse to have relationships with white people. Yes, I don't give my parents the dismay of palmitage. Same social class, same social circle. Despite the time, we never had a label. I guess she means, like status of their relationship. Not because I didn't want to, but because he felt the need to be free. He wanted to be with me, but he also wanted to be with others. Look at the trap. But I went on. I understand that the demands and dynamics that involve being a black woman or man are great, and I try to understand it, help him as much as possible. And inevitably, love builds up. Plans are being made. It's natural. Well, this story could have a more beautiful ending. Our story ended because he chose to get into a serious relationship with a white woman. But it's a matter of taste. Love has no color, some will say. Is it true? Loving a black man can hurt to get ahead of life, to get ahead in life. We'll see more what they mean by that in a minute. In the last conversation we had, after I discovered the relationship, he said in these exact words, quote, I like white women. And if I'm going to cheat, I'll cheat with a white woman. I never assumed or accepted a relationship with a black woman. To get ahead in life, I have to have a pessoa clara, white person at my side, not a black person like me, unquote. So that's pretty incredible because from everything that I've read online, and a lot of people are curious to know, well, black women make this accusation, but what are black men saying about this? What is the reason that it seems that so many prefer to have serious relationships with white women? A lot of black Brazilian women tell me that, in fact, uh, the dealings they have with black Brazilian men is of the sort where they will ficar, they'll be like friends with benefits. They'll what is the term that we could use? It was more of a hookup. It was like, they'll spend the night with you, you have a sexual relationship, but then publicly he doesn't want to be seen holding this woman's hand in public. It's always a thing of, as long as it doesn't get too serious, we can mess around. I don't feel like I'm ready for a relationship. And then he'll just cut it off with the black girl. And then suddenly you see him publicly holding hands with a white girl in public. So, the black woman's thing is, you just told me you weren't ready for a real relationship. And, you break off the relations that we have. And now you're seen parading in the streets with a white woman holding hands when you wouldn't do that with her. Right. This is a story that you hear from black Brazilian women like all the time. It's just like, I used to read these comments like every day. People would say it would have the same story. Why is it that he hides me? He wants an at night relationship, in the daytime he doesn't want to know me. So this is the same thing that she's saying, right? So she says, this is heavy, right? I could blame all black men here for the solidão da mulher negra, meaning the loneliness of the black woman, for the emotional abandonment of my sisters, but I can't see anything else but another facet of racism. So she makes the connection with this preference for white women and how racism plays into these feelings that people seem to develop. We live in a country marked by the myth of racial democracy. Here is the paradise of the races. Everyone loves each other. Everyone respects each other. It's a festa, a party of miscegenation. This was the image sold worldwide by the colonizers. On the other hand, we have a painting like A Redenção de Cã, the redemption of Ham, or Ham's redemption, which reveals that the love for color is not as great as it is said. Of course, I've talked about this Ham's redemption painting in a number of videos and articles. It's just, the painting that came out sometime in, I don't know if it was in the 19th or the 20th century. An artist was asked to portray this dream of the Brazilian elites, where if you look at the photo, and I've showed this several times, and you see the dark-skinned black woman to the left, her mixed daughter in the middle, the white Portuguese immigrant to the far right, and in the mixed girl's arms are the is this white child that she had with the white immigrant. So looking at the mixed girl, you see that the dark skinned black woman had a relationship with a white man, which produced a mixed girl. And then the mixed girl in turn had a relationship with a white man, producing this white baby. So this is what Ham's Redemption, the painting, is all about. And the black woman's hands being stretched out with palm trees being behind her, it's a symbol of hope. She looks to the heavens as if she's saying, thank God for removing this black stain from my family. So more and more people are becoming familiar with this painting. I remember, I learned about this when I first got into Brazil. And most people I talk to about this painting, a lot of people don't believe that's what this painting means. I've had this discussion with people who have participated in this whitening process themselves. And sometimes the coin just doesn't drop. They don't get it. They don't believe it. They want to honestly believe that they chose white partners just out of love. But like I said, there's a little bit more to it. It's just people have to be able to self-reflect. It's not something that I can make anybody see. And of course, I'm not suggesting that, people can't fall in love across racial lines. I'm not saying that at all. But at the same time, we also have to understand, as many Black Brazilians have come to understand, that love is also social construction. What is it that influenced you? I've known men, Black Brazilian men, who have never had serious relationships with Black women. How do you explain that if it's all just a thing about love? But let me keep going. We are encouraged from an early age to lighten the race. And the mais retinto, the darker the skin, the greater the pressure. Phrases like, you won't want to have a child of your color, or hopefully find a white one, or at least your child will have good hair, are commonplace since early childhood. Good hair in Portuguese is a term that they also use in Brazil. It's cabelo bom, they say. It's cabelo bom, cabelo ruim is how black hair is seen in Brazil. How we say good hair and bad hair, they have cabelo bom, cabelo ruim. So wherever Black people went or were sent during the slavery era, all of these negative ideas about how we looked were embedded inside the minds of the population. White is associated with the beautiful, the good, the pleasant. Black is associated with poverty, marginality, bad, ugly, unpleasant. And that has an impact on us in the formation of our intellect, in how we see our brothers of color, brothers and sisters of color, in the way we have relationships or not. Love has color, and it is white. There's actually an article I have on the blog that's pretty similar to that title. It's like damn straight, love does have color, and that color is white. Something to that degree is something that more and more Black Brazilians are coming to understand. My account is that of countless Black women across this country. We tend to find fault in ourselves for the man we love, Black, leaving us for a white woman. The answer, sisters, is that we are not defective. But unfortunately, we live within a system that incites us to self-hatred. It makes us think that we will only have space if we associate ourselves with the white. It makes us fear for our children if they are born with our color. With all this, we have weakened as a people. I love what she said here. Because, think about that. Being Black in Brazil, you're taught that you are defective. There's something wrong with you. You need to put a clothespin on your nose to make your nose smaller. There's stories of people putting bleach on their skin to make their skin get lighter. Even the rapper Carol Conká spoke about this in her, when she was growing up. This parents openly saying, like, don't bring a Black person home. We need to whiten this, we need to whiten the bloodline. There's a story I have on the blog that's titled, what are you doing with that Black? What are you trying to dirty up the family? So it speaks volumes, because whereas 20, 30 years ago, people didn't even perceive that they were being engineered to prefer whiteness. But as time has gone on with education and consciousness, people are starting to clearly see, like, yes, this happened in my family. They're afraid for their children to have Black skin. A lot of Black mothers in Brazil speak on the fear that their children leave the household and might not come back because of the widespread murder of Black males in Brazil by police forces. Right. This a lot said in that short paragraph. The self-hatred. We can only become something if we're associated with whiteness. and on and on, and she realizes it. She says, with all of these pressures, it has weakened us as a people. And if it's incredible because I come across a lot of people in Black Brazil that they'll have all of this consciousness, but yet you'll still see these people with a white partner. I'm not saying it makes a person less Black, but it is just something to think about. And today, more and more people are questioning this. Like, why can I not find any colleagues who you just having Black couples is today with people calling for Black power in Brazil. You can't even start to build Black power if every couple feels the need to marry white, and you just find this among in what we'll call middle class or prominent Black circles in Brazil. And it's just something that if you've ever been there, you've lived in Brazil for a amount of time, it's something that you'll notice. It's, coming from African Americans, it's something you can't really miss. But let me keep on going. We cannot fail to note and emphasize yet that this is also a strategy of extermination. Through miscegenation, Blacks are born increasingly lighter until no more are born. It seems paranoid, but that was exactly the proposal and wager of Brazilian scientists some years ago. It was denounced in the book O Genocídio do Negro Brasileiro, the genocide of the Black Brazilian by Abdias do Nascimento. I've talked a little bit about him. He died, I believe, in 2011 at the age of 97. He was perhaps the closest thing to a Malcolm X or Martin Luther King that Black Brazil had. Abdias do Nascimento was considered after the Africana Encyclopedia defined him as the most complete Black intellectual, of the 20th century. I mean, this man was a painter, he was a playwright, he was a politician, he was an actor, he was an activist, he was a poet, all of these things, and then I'd be remiss to point out the fact, like, Abdias do Nascimento, he writes a book called The Genocide of the Black Brazilian, and he talks about how miscegenation was used as a mechanism to whiten the Black population. And then Abdias do Nascimento also married a white woman, a white woman 40 years younger than him, 40-year-old, a white woman who was 40 years younger than him and also an American. So this is one of the main gripes that a lot of Black activists have had towards Abdias, even though he's being one of the most prominent, well-known Black Brazilian activists. But just goes to show. I mean, it's kind of like, the whole thing with Frantz Fanon. Frantz Fanon talked about this, but you saw what his wife looked like. Anyway, let's see. I have to look back at that, but I'm quite sure, if I'm not mistaken, Frantz Fanon was married to a white woman as well. This is the question that I ask now, because this has been a discussion that's been going on for decades. And I look at African Americans today in the year 2023, and I just have to ask, okay, what direction are we going in? Because this ongoing gender war between Black American men and Black American women, I can very much see that with all of this bickering going on, Black America can quickly become Black Brazil. Only takes a couple of generations. So it's not for me to decide the future of the population, but this is just something that I'm seeing. She continues, the feeling of failure is inevitable. To fail as a woman and as a Black, to love and be sufficient to your Black man. But it is above us. The system was created to alienate them like that. And let us not use this as an excuse to palmita or swirl. Yes, Black women swirl. That's something else that I've pointed out. It is, for all of the accusations and finger pointing of Black Brazilian women towards Black Brazilian men, you find almost as many prominent Afro-Brazilian women with white men as you see vice versa with Black Brazilian men with white women. So it's like, this is going on across the board. I had this one piece that I did some years ago. Like, it was intriguing to me that for all of those years, Black Brazilian women were pointing the finger at Black Brazilian men. And there was something interesting that I was noticing, is that a lot of prominent Black Brazilian women were coming out as lesbians. Many of them had relationships with men, and then some years later they came out as lesbians. And then those same women were also matched up with white women. So it just made me question, I'm like, how is it that you have such a strong force pointing the finger at Black men for doing this? But then the women who are supposed to be conscious of this, they do the same thing, and the excuse will always be, well, we have to do this because all the Black men are passing us up. I agree that is to a case, to sometimes that is the case. But how do you explain that when it's a black lesbian and then you have a choice to get with other black women who feel passed over, but yet still you pass over the black woman and now you're with a white woman. So it's like the trap is deep in Brazil. It's like, wow, it's something that you really just have to see it to believe it. Anyway, concluding, we need to strengthen ourselves as a people. We need to love ourselves. We need to understand even the one who openly says he only likes white women and understand that brainwashing starts early. This condition is not entirely his fault. That's intriguing that she points this out too. Even with her disappointment in being left by a white woman, she managed to see the fact like, look, she understands that black men have been conditioned to have this preference for white women. And this is something that I've seen a lot of people take this position like, don't blame our own people because we're all victims of this system. We're all victims, and slowly some people are coming out of that social engineering that goes on in the mind, but some people will never see it. Some people will just live behind the, love doesn't have color for the rest of their lives and just actively deny it. And in some cases, like I said, I admit, love sometimes has no color. But at the same time, we do have to understand that there is clearly a racial hierarchy in Brazil where black people are taught this adoration of white skin. It's just something you can't really avoid. Anyway, concluding, she says, our people forgot that love is invincible in the battles. Let us start by redeeming this value. Just a quick note from it's one of the notes that I left from one of the something. Oh, it's right here. It says C note 1. So it says here the author points out that regardless of the popular discourse that black Brazilian women don't palmita or have a preference for white males, black women are also affected by a dictatorship of whiteness. Just to comment on that. I have this friend. He was from Angola, and we would frequently have these conversations. We both lived in Sao Paulo, and he would talk about how when he was in Rio, he was just amazed at how many just drop dead gorgeous black women he would see on some of Rio's most beautiful beaches, and they'll be with the most average, even ugly looking white man that you ever seen. He told me the story. I have to talk to this guy again. It's been years, but he told me the one story of this. I think it was a French guy that he knew that was he would spend extended periods in Brazil. And he said to him, he was like, I know I'm not a handsome guy. I'm a very average looking guy, but these black women here love me. And he just talked about his experiences seeing this just regularly on the beaches in Rio. So again, it's like black women say black men are doing it and black men say black women are doing it. But at the same time, while they're going back, squabbling back and forth, each generation of black Brazilians is coming out lighter and lighter until they become white. So anyway, again, so this was the piece that I just read from this writer named Isa. And she says that loving a black man can hurt. This is the piece for those of you who read Portuguese. You want to check it out. Definitely. I appreciate when people, post these type of personal articles because it exposes the issue, take it or leave it. So that's just a piece that I wanted to get into this today because it's just ongoing more and more. Obviously, I've known about this issue for a number of years, but with more Black Americans being interested in the topic, this is just another piece that I wanted to put out. Now, again, a lot of people on YouTube that follow my channel are asking, well, what are black men saying about this? We hear black women are pointing the finger at black men for dating white women, but what is it that black men are saying? And it's hard to really gauge what these men are really feeling. Some of them will hide behind this love has no color thing. And deep down, they have this adoration for whiteness. I already know this. Some who honestly don't have a preference for women. I think that's fewer times that's the case. Because how do you just explain so many of these men being booed up with white women? It's just, you can't just explain that away. One guy actually did a really personal piece. It's another story that I'm going to have to share really soon while I'm on this topic, because there have been black men who have spoken out about this. One really intriguing story that I can remember from some years ago. I'll just share this right now before I end this video. But the brother, okay, again, Afro-Brazilian guy, this had to have been about 5 or 6 years ago. And I used to read some of the stuff that he would post on his Facebook page. And from the things that he was writing, I just had the idea. I knew he was with a white girl at the time, but just following the stuff that he was writing online, I just had the feeling like this dude is making a transition into a black identity. He was clearly black, but again, when we talk about a thing of consciousness, he wasn't quite there yet. But I saw him making this transition with the things that he was writing. And, at a certain point, I said to myself, I'm like, from the things this dude is saying about race and his coming into this black identity, black militancy, and discovering himself as a black man, I thought to myself, he's not going to be with that white girl for much longer. And true enough, I think about 6 months went by before he ended the relationship. He had written this really powerful piece where he had said, if I had the consciousness 10, 15, 20 years ago that I have now, I probably would have never got with that white woman. And then it was so intriguing because he ended up getting into a relationship with a black woman who went through the same thing. She had been raised on, you should marry white, get you a white guy, have some lighter skinned kids. She broke up with her white boyfriend, and then the two of them got together. It was really an intriguing piece. I haven't had contact with that guy in years, but I need to talk to him again because it was a fascinating tale. And then how it ended up, how he and this black woman who went through the same process of identity, and they ended up getting together after both of them parted ways with their white partner. So it's really intriguing to watch this dynamic that's going on. And then when you throw in how Umar Johnson is, they're consuming what Umar Johnson is talking about. A lot of people reject, in Black Brazil, they reject Umar Johnson is too radical. Other people say, well, the brother is right. So that's something I'm going to talk about in the future. I had a piece that I don't ever think I ever actually got around to posting that because they took his entire interview and put Portuguese subtitles on the bottom so they could follow what Umar Johnson was talking about. But one of these days I'll get into that because that was a pretty long piece. I translated all of these comments that people were making about the Umar Johnson Breakfast Club interview. So anyway, gonna leave that there. Definitely let me know what you thought about this piece. What's it called? Loving a Black Man Could Hurt. Basically, what the brother was saying and what he told the sister who wrote this article, like, in order for me to get ahead in life, I can't be with somebody who's black like me. That's speaks volumes. Is this just one guy? I'm like, no, I think that this is something that's it has conquered the mind of most Black Brazilians, and I've known people who, like I said, I've known Black Brazilian men who have never dated Black women. They might have sex with them occasionally, but yeah, so this is something that I've known about in Brazil for some years, and I just wanted to bring this to my audience because it's pretty it's just really it's strange. While I was in Brazil in Sao Paulo for those 9 years, I knew a number of African Americans who were living in various parts of Brazil, and we all just would get together, through our a phone app and just discuss like, man, I'm seeing the same thing in this state and that state. Like, what's going on? Why are these Black Brazilians so obsessed with whiteness? So anyway, let me end that here. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel, share this video. I love to spark this conversation because it's another slice of what's going on in Brazil. Definitely click on the notification button so you'll be one of the first people to get my videos when they come up. And if you like this video, I hope to see you check out the next one, when I put the next one up. So see you all in the next video.